Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I just wanted to talk to you guys about how it was for me to have my first surgery and to be first diagnosed, and just the journey that just started from there. I had my first surgery in May 2014, and I first found out like January 2014. It was actually Martin Luther King Day, and I wanted to go to the gym because that's what everybody does on Martin Luther King Day, and my mom told me no. And prior to this, I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't know what it was. It was like when I laid down, I could just see this big like hump in my stomach on my right side that I was just like, it was obviously growing and I didn't know, but it got to a point where I'm like, okay, I noticed it, and I'm like, what is this? So I told her, I'm like, okay, well, since I can't go to the gym, can you take me to the emergency room? And she's just like, what's going on? What's wrong? And I had to calm her down. I'm like, I'm not in any pain right now, but like there's something, wrong with my stomach that I'm unsure of. And so she's like, what do you mean? Da, da, da. So I had to let her touch it for her to like really to notice that like, something wasn't right. And she's like, oh my goodness, Jasmine, are you pregnant? And I'm like, no, I'm not pregnant. There's just something there. I don't know what it is. So she takes me to the emergency room. The first thing the doctor does is he's touching it. And he's like, oh, you're about this far along, da, da, da. I'm like, that's not a baby. To me, I'm like, if it was a baby, there would be, it would be all across my stomach, not just on one right side. So I'm like, it's not a baby. So his whole demeanor changed. He's like, if that's not, well, we need to figure out what it is. I'm like, that's why I'm here. Okay. So he comes back and he's like, you're not pregnant. And I'm like, I know. So he tells me to, see, my doctor and this and this and this. So I go to just like a regular OBGYN, my regular doctor. He was like, I can't help you. This right here, this is way far beyond what I can deal with. I'm like, he's like, I need somebody that's, you need to see a specialist about this. And to hear that, I was just like, what? Like, how can you not help me? So he sends me to a specialist, and before actually he sends me to the specialist, he puts me on medication. It's called Lupron, and that medicine I just so happened to be on just last year for my fibroids. That puts you through menopause with hot flashes, mood swings, and I remember just my body just sweating profusely, like out of nowhere. I stop whatever I'm doing and I go have to get some ice and like just to try to cool my body down. I don't really remember the mood swings much. I probably did have them, but I definitely remember having the hot flashes, and it's like nonstop. It don't matter if I was asleep. It don't matter. They were coming. And that medicine was supposed to stop the growth of any of the endometriosis or the fibroids. So I started seeing the specialist. It was a lot because they were trying to figure out like what it was and why it was just why it looked like that in a sense. I remember them testing me for so much, like I literally remember getting phone calls on my voicemail to say, no, you don't have cancer. And I put it that way that they can just put it on voice because it was happening. So I was going to the doctors like 2 times a week from when I found out up until the point that I had the surgery. And I pushed the surgery back because I was still working. I was working 2 jobs at the time. I was a full-time college student, and I'm just like, I don't want to in the middle of the semester just stop and know I'm going to be out and miss all that I'm doing. So I got it to where I had it for the summer and I just recovered then. it was, if I would have known, how bad and everything it would have gotten, I definitely would have handled myself differently, but I just didn't know. I had no clue. And even just the doctors, like, they weren't being like fearful, they made me feel like I can, still just be easy until that time frame, because I still just didn't have answers. I still was just unsure. Nobody in my family ever heard of endometriosis, and I just didn't really have a blueprint to what was gonna happen. So it got to the point to where I had the surgery. I had to see a specialist to take over from a cancer doctor, cancer specialist. So I had the surgery, and it was way worse than what they thought it was. It was like, once they went to do one procedure, they had to completely change their other procedure to another procedure because it was really bad. By the time I had the surgery, the mass had grew to 15 centimeters. It was another one that was 9 centimeters behind it that they did not see because the first one was so big. I had to get my appendix removed, and I ended up staying in the hospital for about 5 days because my colon was swollen. And it wasn't a good experience at all. I was throwing up, and that is no fun after a stomach surgery. So I was like on no food, ice chips. It wasn't good at all, at all. And unfortunately, that's just what I had to deal with in the beginning of that. After my surgery, and they even did some more testing even when I was under. Like, he tested a mole and was like, oh, and by the way, that mole was non-cancerous. I'm like, okay, thank you for checking, but that's just literally the emotional roller coaster on what I had to deal with, of like waiting and going and, oh, come in for the test results, and it was a lot. So after the surgery happened, I really just went back to a normal life. I went back to working as much as I could. I was ready to get back in school because I just didn't have answers. I just was unsure of what my future held with this, Of course, in the midst of all that, I found out that it will probably be hard for me to have a child. And that was the number one thing out of all of this that really just put a damper on my spirit. Like, because that's one thing I've always wanted. As a kid, I wanted the family, but like, I really was like, I can see myself being a mother. And not that I'm not going to be a mother, because I still pray to ask God to make me a mother in some way, because these children you love out here, and I pray for them, the fatherless, the motherless, because it's needed. It is so needed. So, and I just pray when that time comes for me that I'm ready. So I'm still praying for it. I'm still believing it and trusting God at the end of the day. However, it was obviously from that moment on to even me having a hysterectomy, a journey for me to accept that just might not be the case. However, it'd be the case in another way. And even just out of all of that, after that first surgery, first time, endometriosis is such a just such a bummer that you don't know when it hits you. That thing will be growing and it'll come back like full force, which it did. And that is why I had to have a second surgery. And I will let you guys know about that here in hopefully just a couple days. You guys be blessed, and share, like, subscribe, and I hope this helps someone, male, female, because again, everybody is affected when one person has to deal with this. Make sure you have a good support system, and you'll be okay. You'll be all right.